Privacy is now public. This concept can be difficult to believe, but in a world where every moment is ruled by digital technology, it isn't actually that far off. You need digital technology to turn in an assignment on Canvas, to get a message from your boss, or even a check to see when your vaccine appointment is. All these aspects seem to benefit your life as a whole. However, people often fail to remember all the negative qualities that come with technology. It is important to grapple with both the good and the evil when it comes to technology, and this brings us to one of the biggest culprits of evil technology of all time, surveillance capitalism. Most predominantly, surveillance capitalism disproportionately affects marginalized groups who don't have the same agency online as those who grew up in more privileged settings. However, surveillance capitalism does negatively affect almost everybody due to the lack of precedence of online regulations. Most governments don't know how to handle the new surge of online technology and all the problems that come with it, because there never has really been a force quite as powerful in the past. This leaves many questions to be answered. How much regulation should there be online? Who should be responsible for this regulation? For example, free speech is frequently redefined, which makes it hard to find the line between corporate policy and government policy. On the other hand, a lack of complete regulation is not exactly possible either, because likely even more problems would arise. More specifically, the disproportionate effects towards marginalized groups would be even more emphasized. This is why Shoshana Zuboff, the author of the book The Age of Surveillance Capitalism, says that our privacy is now public. Putting this into laypeople's terms instead of that of an expert, surveillance capitalism occurs when companies use people's online data to predict their future actions in order to manipulate them into buying specific products or backing specific political campaigns. One clear example of this was Pokemon Go, an online game where users traveled around their communities to find Pokemon. Companies paid the gaming agency to lead customers in specific directions, such as toward a McDonald's or a Starbucks, to incentivize the users to make purchases from these enterprises. Measures like these are reliant on how much data the users give up, which illustrates why privacy is no longer private. Surveillance capitalism is staking a claim on private human experience and exploiting it in order to advance the causes of large multinational companies. While it is obvious that these practices negatively affect a large percentage of the population, marginalized groups are affected even more dramatically. A clear example of this is the tracking of EBT cards traditionally found in these communities, which influence the user's agency online. In the past, people called this disparity the digital divide, a gap between people who have access to technology and those who don't. However, this is an outdated understanding of the situation. The issue now is agency. How can users interactions online be equal so that everyone is afforded the same opportunities? As seen with the EBT cards, the disparity between marginalized groups and those with online privilege is wider than ever. So what is being done in order to help the people who are being disproportionately affected? Almost nothing. There's hardly any precedence for regulation when it comes to digital surveillance or surveillance capitalism, which makes it difficult for many governmental agencies or outside agencies to take control over large companies who are exploiting people's data. Despite this, as stated by Langdon Winner, the intersections between politics and technology are inevitable. This is due to design features and the ways in which technologies are arranged that establish patterns of power and authority which can disproportionately affect people. As discussed previously, the technopolitical duality between democratic technology and authoritarian technologies is very evident. There are many government agencies who want to use surveillance capitalism in order to continue to exploit people's information for their own economic and political gains. Often, these same agencies turn around and demand large multinational companies to take responsibility for their own exploitation. The hypocrisy is clear. Even when Mark Zuckerberg was under trial for the issues he faced with Facebook's privacy policy, he refused to fact-check any political advertisements. This is an example of technopolitics in action. The technology is being used to promote a specific political party, and without regulation of any sort, Facebook would likely influence the outcome of an election. Conversely, by allowing Facebook to continue to abstain from taking responsibility for its content, the government is systematically setting a precedent for the unregulated presence of online politics. This is a dangerous game because, as evidenced by the Cambridge Analytica scandal, many people are not afraid of their privacy being used against them in order to influence larger political elections. In 2018, sources admitted that Cambridge Analytica played a large role in the 2016 presidential election by utilizing Facebook's data in order to analyze who might be persuaded into voting for a specific political party. Once again, Zuboff hits the nail on the head by saying Cambridge Analytica was the parasite and surveillance capitalism was the host. Situations like these demonstrate how people are not readily giving consent for their information to be used against them in order to facilitate political and capital gains. This is not only a legal issue, but an ethical one. However, most companies would claim that their users do know because it's all written down in the privacy policy. Ironically, privacy policies are actually the opposite of their name because in essence what it is doing is removing people's privacy and making it public. In the past, the Tuskegee experiment exemplified the importance of consent when experimenting on people, especially when the experiment is causing them irreparable damage. For the most part, surveillance capitalism is one big experiment online, using people's data in order to predict their decisions to make capital and political gains. And once again, these experiments disproportionately affect marginalized groups. Most of this exploitation and manipulation is wrapped in a tidy package we like to call marketing and slogans. Unfortunately, as demonstrated by the Cambridge Analytica scandal, people like to be persuaded. They like to be told what to do, which makes surveillance capitalism all the more effective. However, if we continue to allow surveillance capitalism to dictate decisions such as presidential elections, it is unlikely that people will ever have full agency online again. Even though most people see the internet as an avenue that facilitates the continuation of democracy, in reality, it is only breaking down democracy by usurping privacy, diminishing autonomy, and depriving individuals of the right to think for themselves. Epistemic inequality for marginalized groups is pervasive as a result of all of these actions, and there is no one right solution to this issue. Surveillance capitalism is so nuanced there is hardly a precedent for any aspect of it, and many people have different opinions on how surveillance capitalism should be regulated. While opposing perspectives continues to fight, everyone else continues to watch as surveillance capitalism threatens to remake society as it unmakes democracy.